Going to a networking event without a strategy is a bit like going to play a game of tennis without a tennis racket. I mean, you'll have a nice time, you'll perhaps hang out in the sun, speak to some friends, but it's not going to be a great game of tennis, is it? Networking is a great thing to do to help grow your business, but don't fall into the trap of just going networking, just going without a purpose. Here's 5 steps you can take to build a networking strategy for your next networking event. Now, step 1 happens before you even go to the networking event. You've got to think about your goals. What do you want to achieve from going to this event? Now, some people look at that goal in terms of how many bits of business are they going to close at a networking event. Don't do that. No one's going to buy from you in a networking event, so don't try and sell anything. Much better is to think about the number of people you want to meet, and maybe using the delegate list, looking for specific people you'd like to meet. Now, step 2 is also something to do before you even go to the networking event. What are you going to talk about once you get into the conversations with those individuals? Now, first things first, you've got to think of the sort of questions you're going to ask. You know, usually they'll start with a who, what, where, when, why, but I'd encourage you, see if you can avoid what I call vanilla questions. Questions like, where'd you come from? How long have you been doing that? Not very interesting. Now, I appreciate you've got to ask a starter question. It might be, what do you do? That might be a good starting question. But then asking a question like, how did you get into that? That's going to provide a much more interesting answer that's likely to build a relationship with the person you're talking to. You want to think about having a few of these sorts of questions pre-prepared in your mind to keep a conversation interesting. And of course, you can't be too prepared. Conversations don't work like that. You've got to use something called active listening, or as my other half calls it, listening. So let's move on to step 3. You've talked about them. At some point, they can ask about you. You've got to have something interesting to say. And this is where you would share your elevator pitch for your business. This is where, for me, as an unnatural networker, I feel uncomfortable. It feels like selling. It doesn't feel right. If you're anything like me, a great thing to do is to share a story about how you helped a client. Put it from the client's point of view so it becomes less about you and more about how you helped someone. Step 4 is all about getting what you want out of the networking event. Make sure you're being targeted in what you're looking for. If web designers are a good contact for you, be clear about it. Say you want to get in touch with web designers, or if there's a specific one, even better. Last of all, step 5. That's where we start thinking about what happens after the networking event, although your job starts when you're still there. Now, assuming when you've had a chat with someone, there's a relationship started to build, there's a bit of synergy and rapport between you, and it's worth continuing that conversation, we need to think about the follow-up. Follow-up is the simple practice of doing what you said you were going to do. If you said you were going to send them an email, send them an email. If you said you were going to meet for a coffee, arrange to meet for the coffee. Now get out there and enjoy your networking with a good strategy. Now, where's my tennis racket?